right. I did my work, and I spoke to Time's Up, and I just don't feel comfortable throwing away a decent man that I've known for 15 years.
Yep.
In this time of complete chaos without there being a thorough investigation.
Yep.
I'm sure that mainstream media would be jumping all over this as well if they
we weren't in a pandemic. If there was more credible, if there was evidence if
they found more evidence or through their investigation. So I'm just kind of staying quiet about it.
What a surprise, folks. That is Alyssa Milano, who is become a political, she's really a third-tier actress who's become now a political activist. So we end up talking about her in the realm of politics. And I did have the the misfortune of interviewing her once, and she didn't realize who I was. So we sat down and I started asking her questions that were real journalism questions she didn't have any good answers to about guns. And her Chihuahua tried to pee on my foot. Don't worry, Tallulah. She was not nearly as civilized and beautiful a canine as you are. But the Chihuahua did, right during the interview, try to relieve itself on me. It was pretty funny. It was a decrepit little Chihuahua. And I like Chihuahuas. Don't to the Chihuahua owners out there. This was clearly a lib Chihuahua. This was a Chihuahua that had like a Bernie Sanders sticker on its food bowl and was all about, canine Medicare for all. So anyway, I've had the misfortune of, and she complained, which I thought was the most hilarious and classless thing ever. And even the liberals, this is when I worked at the Hill, even the liberals that were at the Hill, of whom there are plenty, said that it was they had the whole tape. I mean, we aired basically all the interview. I don't think we really even edited it, but they said it was an entirely fair and respectful interview. She called to try to get me in trouble. Her publicist called the Hill to try to, have some sanctions taken against me, get me suspended or something. I didn't do anything. I just asked her questions. She's a moron and a gross person who's desperate for attention. So there you have it. But she's also somebody completely lacking in principle, as we see here. Now, why is she well known now? She is well known because she attached herself to the Me Too movement. As far as I understand, never talked about her own Me Too story, but she is somebody who is prominently associated with Me Too, makes a lot of noise about it, has a big following, and was and sat in the hearings against Kavanaugh. Sat very prominently displayed behind him, made sure that she was seen on camera there. To make sure that Kavanaugh faced justice for what they said he did, which he did nothing. Kavanaugh's innocent, and if we have any belief in evidence and rationality, Kavanaugh is not. It's not that Kavanaugh's not guilty. Kavanaugh is innocent. I mean, I'm as sure of that as we can be, based on anything for which we only have evidence, not firsthand experience. So, what was Alyssa Milano talking about there, though? Because you won't hear this, because I don't think CBS or NBC or ABC, I don't think any of them have touched this. And I give my colleagues my former colleagues at the Hill, Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty, both of whom I'm very fond of, I give them credit for trying to raise this story and get some real attention for it. Tara Reid worked for Senator Biden in the 1990s, and she claims that he sexually assaulted her in 1993. Based on the specifics of the allegation, there was, pardon me, and if you have kids listening, I'll give you like a 10-second here to either turn the volume down for a second, but it's important to show you the degree of the allegation, that there was forceful penetration that occurred, which, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, there's that's either a certain degree of sexual assault, but sometimes that will be classified as rape. Even this was essentially, the allegation is of digital penetration, and so that's a very very serious crime. And she has raised this on the record. She's given an interview. She worked on Biden's staff, so we know that he knows who she is. We know that they had contact as adults. We know that they were probably in the office alone together a whole bunch of times, or in offices near each other when there weren't other folks around. And yet you don't hear this. ABC, at least as of last week, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN haven't said a single word about this. Now, we were told during the Kavanaugh saga, which was the although it might be overtaken by what we see coming up here with this fight over Trump's blood on his hands from this disease, from handling this disease. The ugliest political thing I've ever seen was the ritual humiliation of lies and personal destruction that liberals put Kavanaugh through because they're so desperate to maintain control of the Supreme Court. And ultimately, I think they realize that they need to forestall as long as possible a reckoning with Roe v. Wade, because the Supreme Court, unfortunately and wrongly, gave them a declaration that Roe was the law of the land when no honest person could ever think that that was really the case. But they need to protect that because that would be the erosion, the destruction, really, of the the supposed liberal moral high ground of caring about people and caring about the downtrodden. They don't care about the unborn very much, do they? They don't care about babies in the womb. We know that. All they care about is that they can be eliminated for convenience sake. Isn't it so interesting that that some of the most prominent voices against any balancing of risk dealing with this pandemic are come from the left, and they say, we will defend every life with everything we have. And how dare anyone think of the convenience of the economy as any kind of counterbalance against this? And then they'll turn around and say, if a woman doesn't want to have a baby, she can kill the baby. And then this is commonplace. This is standard on the left. In fact, this is doctrine on the left. They don't hide from this. They don't avoid this. This is the truth. So, murdering babies by the millions, that's an active process. That's not someone accidentally is in the room with someone and coughs and they don't know, and then they get that person sick. And, that's life as it has always been for human beings, for our species. People get sick, right? We're just trying to keep too many people from getting sick and too many people from having this particular disease. But, abortion is a new thing for our species, and it's one that is an active process of eliminating lives, of killing living human beings. So they were willing to do anything to take down Kavanaugh, as we know. And you were hearing things that were true and pure when I say true, I mean they were distilled propaganda, the most absolute kinds of propaganda you can imagine, phrases that not only weren't true under the circumstances, but that make no sense unless you're trying to brainwash people. All women have a right to be believed. Women have a right to be believed. This is what they were claiming. This was only 2 years ago. Women have a right to be believed. So does that mean that women don't lie? Because we know that men and women do lie. Human beings lie, and they level false accusations. And this is just a matter of fact. And you can sit around and think to yourself of very prominent cases of women claiming sexual assault when then finally the evidence came out they were lying. The Duke lacrosse case, a prominent example, the UVA fraternity rape. I mean, these are national level stories of women who lied about being raped. So now I know that there are far more cases of rape that aren't reported, and I understand all the horrific statistics about how common sexual assault is and all this, but remember the standard they set. Women have a right to be believed. It wasn't that women have a right to have their case heard and should be taken seriously, and anyone who has ever assaulted a woman should face the severest legal consequences possible. That's absolutely just. That's the way we should be. This should be severely punished, and we should seek justice for survivors. That was not what they were saying, though. That was not the claim. The claim was women should be believed, period. So if a woman makes an allegation, it's true. And now I always rejected that because I said, no, it's based, we have to, through a legal proceeding, you have to base this on evidence, and people, we have a system in place to adjudicate these things. They said, oh, you're just covering up for the sexual assaults of Kavanaugh. Oh, and in that case, we know beyond a reasonable doubt that the third woman, Julie Swetnick, who came out against Kavanaugh, was a liar. Not that she was confused. She was a liar. I mean, she was a deranged person. She was lying. The second person who came forward was almost certainly lying. And the first person, I think, was confused and exaggerating because she was trying to save Roe v. Wade. And that's become pretty clear. All right. So we not only are, do you have to, can you look at other cases to find out that there have been lies? Oh, but okay. The real issue here is that they were saying that women have a right to be believed. And now, and Alyssa Milano was a big proponent of this. Millions of Twitter followers, run around on TV, giving radio interviews. Yes, we have to believe women and Me Too and all this stuff. All this. And remember that they use real cases, and Ronan Farrow was a part of this. And I will never let that kid get away with this. He did some good work on Harvey Weinstein, right? And how much of that was handed to him by people that knew about this, and there's a whole other. That wanted to take Weinstein down. I mean, but he did good journalism. There's no question about it on some of these cases. But then he used all the clout that he had gathered together to go after Kavanaugh and wrote that absurd hit piece using Deborah Ramirez, the second accuser against Kavanaugh, who, she was so traumatized by the thing that she thinks maybe happened that she wasn't sure if the thing even really happened. And everybody who knew her was like, no, that didn't happen. Yeah, that one. And they left out. There was journalistic malpractice there, but they were taking a whatever it takes approach. Whatever it takes to destroy Kavanaugh was inherently acceptable. Whatever it takes to ruin him, they were fine with. Now it's Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been accused on the record by a woman who worked for him in the 90s of forcible penetration of rape. That is the accusation. How is it possible that you have not seen this getting covered by every major media outlet? Because Alyssa Milano, she's given it all away, hasn't she? Well, no, now we need more evidence. Now we need to know the full facts. Now we need a presumption of innocence. It's almost like if you were creating an experiment to see how dishonest the left really was with their usage of Me Too against Kavanaugh and how clearly politicized this becomes. This is it. We're running the experiment right now. Oh, and they said that Trump sexually assaulted women. And I kept hearing all these stories. And then I'd say, well, what? Who? Who says that they were sexually assaulted by Trump? And then it's, he grabbed me and kissed me at a party or something a long time ago. And I'm saying, okay, well, is that, can you prove any of this? Or is this, that's a very easy thing to throw out there. And also, the law makes distinctions. I know we're not supposed to, if they try to get you on technicalities here, make you seem like you're a monster, but the law does make distinctions between, grabbing someone and kissing them is different from sexual penetration of them in other parts of the body. The law makes that distinction. So let's not pretend like that's not a real thing, because this is where you get the, Trump says, that women will just let you kiss them. Let you being a very important word there. Let you grab them. Let you being a very important component in all this process. But we heard all this, and if you didn't believe that Trump, who is a billionaire playboy and has been for decades, if you didn't believe that for some reason he was also he was a predator instead of somebody who clearly likes the company of very beautiful women, and maybe a little too much, but I don't judge. Now we're told that Joe Biden did this, and there's just silence on it. And there's all this backtracking, and we need evidence, because it was always a fraud what they were doing to Kavanaugh. It was always a lie, and they knew it, and they justified it in their heads, and there was no principle involved. And I think it's Rose McGowan, who was another prominent, and she was somebody who has come forward and talked about her own Me Too situation. Yep, here it is. She tweeted at Alyssa Milano the following. Her sister in the Me Too movement, if you will. This just came out this morning. Rose McGowan, quote, "You are a fraud. This is about holding the media accountable. You go after Trump and Kavanaugh saying believe victims. You are a lie. You have always been a lie. The corrupt DNC is a smear job of Tara Reid. So are you. Shame." Well, Rose McGowan, it seems, is willing to assert principle. Rose McGowan is willing to hold people to the same standards. Good for her. But it's one of these moments where we should take a step back and just remember, I was saying this to you all along, that this would be weaponized, not just against Kavanaugh, but against other people, that believe all women was something they were only saying insofar as it was useful for destroying Republicans. I was right. You were right. They were wrong. They lied about this. The liberal media lied about how Me Too would be judged going forward. They lied about the lack of politics in this. They're a bunch of frauds and phonies, and they are disgraceful on this issue. Disgraceful. Alyssa Milano at the top of the list. Ugh. think she's such good friends with Joe Biden. Oh, my God. Gross. Every day at 7 o'clock, there's this round of applause and cheers and shouts all across New York. I think they're doing it in other cities perhaps too, but I know that I hear it every night in New York, and it is comforting. It is encouraging. It's heartening. And there's also a lot of praise out there on social media for people who are frontline logistics personnel, if you will. You know, our doctors and nurses, they're frontline warriors against the virus, and we've got people who are delivering food, you know, working in the stores, working at Walmart, working in grocery stores and pharmacies. You know, there are logistics and supply chain for this war effort, and we need them. And there's a renewed appreciation for them. I'm concerned that I see here there are, there are some issues, and I've had people write in about this too, with not letting grocery workers cover their mouths, and wear gloves, take those basic precautions. I can't imagine why any store, and I really mean that, I can't think of why any store wouldn't allow them to take those measures to protect themselves. And now we're seeing that there are some grocery workers who have died from coronavirus. There are concerns about how much exposure these people are going through in this process. Are they going to get paid sick leave if they continue to show up for work and they get sick with this? Are they going to get raises in pay? I think they should get a raise in pay. I'm a believer in doing everything we can to show our appreciation. I mean, one thing, I order in food, and unfortunately, I'm probably gaining about a pound or two a week right now at least. But I'm ordering in food as I can and put some money into restaurants that are still delivering. And I'm giving the biggest tips I've ever given to people who are delivering food because I want to help them out and show a little appreciation. I know it's a small gesture, and I'm not like, oh, look at me, pat me on the back. Who gives a what? We're all doing what we can as best as we can, and we all have different ways of trying to help out. I'm just merely saying financial appreciation for those who are doing this seems to be well merited. And I would like to see better protective measures for those, because if we start having grocery stores that can't open their doors just because people won't work the checkout lanes, we got big problems. Once the food supply comes into question, then things deteriorate not even food supply, access to food. Once people's access to food comes into question, then things get very scary very quickly. So we got to do what is necessary here to make sure that these stores stay open. And, there's an epidemiological risk to going to these stores as well as working in them. And I don't think that, no one seems to have an answer for this. And I think they're just saying, well, I guess we got to keep those open. Well, okay, if we're keeping those open, that might be a big risk. What about risks in other places? We'll have to deal with that tomorrow. NBC News will report that while the U.S. has a whole lot of casualties in the last 24 hours from coronavirus, China has none. I don't know what it's going to take for our media to stop spreading CCP propaganda and really viewing themselves as the propaganda arm of Beijing, even at the expense of the truth in this country while we're going through this. But it's very annoying. Our media just continues to cover itself in a lot of disgrace during all of this. I find it very, very frustrating. So I'll talk more about China and what's going on there tomorrow. I'll try to check in. We're going to have some recurring themes here, recurring storylines, and certainly China's not just role in this, but propaganda efforts are going to be another part of what we're dealing with and what we're looking at dealing with going forward. Paul. Roll call, by the way. Oh, and please do, if you have not already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have it up on Facebook, on Twitter. We're sharing links to it. So just go to facebook.com/BuckSexton. You'll see we got a YouTube page. Please subscribe. You can watch the Pluto TV show that we're doing on that YouTube channel. So if you prefer the YouTube version, you can do that. And also tell people about the Buck Sexton show right now. It's a great time to get new podcast listeners in particular. We love all of our 160 affiliates across the country, but we really also appreciate podcast growth where we can get it. So if someone's home and they're like, look, I can't handle the depressing, endless drumbeat of despair from the news media and how Trump is horrible and he's destroyed everything, tell them, hey, listen to the Buck Sexton Show. You'll get all the information you need, but without all the left-wing insanity. And, you can listen to it we're on Spotify, aren't we, Producer Mark?
Yes, we're everywhere.
Yeah, that's an easy, Spotify is a really easy, for those of you who are Spotify users, which I've become a pretty avid one, it's a really easy way to listen to the podcast. You can also listen on iTunes. I don't think the Apple Store, Apple Podcast interface, I feel is not, I think Spotify is easier.
And iHeartRadio is just fantastic, too.
And iHeartRadio, the company we work for, has a wonderful app that you can listen to the Buck Sexton Show on.
The industry-leading app, obviously, Buck.
Industry-leading, and a lot of things you can listen to on there, a lot of stations. As long as you listen to the Buck Sexton Show, listen to anything else you want as well. And that app is free. All right, Paul. Hello, Buck. Hello, Paul. Hope you're doing well. I thought about Made in USA. I never hear anybody talking about overtaxation and overregulation of businesses in the U.S. No one moves a business to China because regulation and taxes are light in the U.S. We want Made in the USA, but no one wants to cut regulation or taxes. And here we sit with this terrible virus while our stuff is being made in China. In the long run, I don't think Americans will pay $20 for a pair of ankle socks and $10 for a pair of tighty-whities. Maybe they will for a year or two, but after we come out from under Corona lockdown. Well, Paul, I think we're gonna see who's right here. I believe that there's a greater willingness to spend on American things, especially if we are clear about why we're doing that. Made in America, I do think will become a rallying cry in this country again. And I think that because of the end of the Soviet Union in particular, we've seen, okay, well, we're the dominant power and we can get stuff from wherever and it doesn't matter. No, China is trying to replace America as the global hegemon. We know this. This is clear. This is obvious. And we need, for national security as well as economic reasons, to bring some of the production that has been offshored and some of the influences of globalization. We need to turn those around here. We need to turn those around. And I don't know, $10 for a pair of tighty-whities. Producer Mark, isn't that what tighty-whities cost?
I do not personally wear those, but I think underpants in general, they're more expensive than you think.
Yeah, a good pair of boxers is kind of pricey, actually.
Like a six-pack of Hanes is like $30.
Yeah, it's not that cheap.
Yeah.
So I think people are, $20 for a pair of ankle socks, that may be a little high. But, I'm a big fan of these, of the smart wool socks. They're expensive. I'm not going to lie. You're talking about $20 socks.
You're
smart
a bougie
wool socks
person.
Are expensive. I'm a bougie person?
Yeah.
No, accurate. Yeah, of course. I think that the smart wool socks are a great investment for anybody who can, or just getting that kind of those synthetic fibers that breathe better but keep your feet warmer and actually can keep them cooler too, depending on which kind of sock you get. Socks are important. Two things that I find are a real upgrade for yourself that you don't really often think about, but once you do them, you're like, wow. Actually, there are three of them. Ready for these, Producer Mark? These are actually things that people can do while they're in quarantine. I think they'll be happy if they listen to me. That don't involve doing 100 push-ups a day, which any day now I'm going to start doing my 100 push-up a day challenge, but any day now. Replace your towels. Replace your socks. Replace your pillowcases. These are things that people hold on to for far, far too long. These are all... you don't even think, you're like, oh, my towels are fine. My towels are fine. No. Get yourself some new towels, all right? Get yourself some new socks, whatever socks you have, get new pairs of it. And also your pillowcase, you don't realize how much oil and sweat and whatever, that those things over time, they get a little ratty. They get a little run down. What do you think, Producer Mark?
Well, I recently started using new pillowcases and new towels since we moved, so...
See? Aren't they nice?
They are great.
Aren't new towel? You have a new towel, you wipe your face.
My wife registered, because we got them from the wedding or the shower or whatever, and these towels are, luxurious. It's like I'm in a 5-star resort, and they're heavy.
There you go. That's what you want. No, investing in nice towels is it's a really good move. And there's a lot of great inexpensive towels now. I mean, you go on Amazon and you can find really good towels, and if there's enough high-level customer, or if there's enough positive customer reviews, you're in really good shape. But the difference between a new plush towel and like an old kind of, little torn ratty towel that you use is sort of like the difference between, really nice, thick, cushy toilet paper versus using that like eco-friendly sandpaper on your bum, which it's never worth it. It's never worth it.
I've been using flushable wipes, Buck. Game changer.
I know you told me this.
Yeah. I finally got
right.
some. Like, they were finally in stock on Amazon, so I bought more.
Oh, there
Fantastic.
You go. Yeah, no, I've heard people are fans. Sorry, we talk personal hygiene here on the show, too. Don't worry, we do that. All right, Brandy. Brandy writes, Buck, I'm worried about the direction of this country. Well, that makes two of us, Brandy. It's one thing to shut down voluntarily in order to get a grip on such a contagious virus, but now this is starting to feel like George Orwell's 1984, even down to the loudspeaker in the grocery store. Moreover, to see and read posts asking if the government offered to pay Americans to report people gathering in groups of more than 10, would they do it and for how much? Even scarier to see how many people said they would do it for free. Yeah, Brandy, I don't like America should not turn into a nation of tattletales. It's one thing if someone's doing something that's really reckless or putting people at risk, but I'm sorry, one guy in a playground with his young daughter on the slide, that's not a social distancing violation that needs to be reported to the authorities. And you're seeing a lot more of this. People are reporting others, and I feel like some of it is also envy. There's that, envy that someone else is enjoying themselves or someone else is getting some sun. There's that story or that old line that a Puritan is someone who lives with the constant, and I'm paraphrasing, but someone lives with the constant fear that someone somewhere is having a good time. There are this snitch attitude, and the mayor of Los Angeles, Garcetti, has said now that they're going to reward people. They're going to give you money. The city of Los Angeles will give you a reward for snitching on people who aren't doing enough social distancing. Look, for the people that are still holding funerals here in New York with 400 people at them, all very close together. Yeah, that's violating the spirit of what we're trying to do right now. So I understand why that's upsetting. But, one person in one place who is maybe a little too close to a friend or a family member, everyone needs to just ease up a little bit on the hall monitor stuff. It's not necessary. And see, here's Brandy saying exactly what I was talking about before. This is turning into it is truly Orwellian. I mean, you have speakers everywhere telling you social distance, 6 feet apart. Repeat, social distance, 6 feet apart. Okay, it's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot more of this. David, hey, Buck, I watched the daily press conference. I think Trump does a great job softening up the media for his experts. Today, especially, he left the journalists looking completely dejected. And I think that's part of his strategy. Oh, can we play, producer Mark, can we play the clip where he's yelling at Jonathan Karl?
Has that person been in government?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a third-rate reporter, and what you just said is a disgrace, okay? You asked me, you said, sir, just got appointed. Take a look at what you said now. I said, when did this person, how long in government? Well, it was appointed in the Obama administration. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. You will never make it. Go ahead.
Trump slaps down the media sometimes. Sometimes the media is asking for it. He's also, look, the guy's tired. He's in a bad mood. He's trying to keep the country from falling apart. He's looking at, really tough numbers and the death toll every day. And this is challenging stuff. So, yeah, Trump's going to lose his cool sometimes a little bit. He's going to tell people what he really thinks. I think that's what we signed up for when we voted for this guy. So it's not surprising to me, and I don't have a problem with it. But, some people, they get all so upset. David writes, I would also like to see you and producer Mark set up a mock press conference where you play sound bites of the stupid questions these journalists ask and reply with your Hillary impersonation. We are so fortunate she's not in office right now. It's something people aren't mentioning. Keep up the great work. David, thank you. I like the idea. These days we're pretty stacked with work and things we got to do. So I can't say that it's very likely that we're going to be doing a lot of new segments that require a lot of new work. But Thank you for the idea. Maybe we'll get to it at some point in the future. I don't know. Producer Mark, you can always tell people, yeah, sure, give me more work, guys. I love that. We'll leave that to you.
Oh, yeah, I love extra work. I don't have enough of it.
Yeah,
I really need things to do. So
there you go, everybody. Yep. He likes his 14-hour workday, Producer Mark. Just be like, what about the other 10 hours, Producer Mark? That's what you should ask him.
I wish you would do some more podcasts.
Yeah.
Just so I had more work to do.
There we go. He's told you, folks. Right into him, Producer Mark. He's asking for it. All right, roll call continues with Dale. Buck, I know you're going through some troublesome times. We all are, but I know that in New York City, things are certainly more dire. The frustration in your voice is evident. I look forward to being able to get back to some sense of normalcy soon, if possible. I still listen every day for your common sense insights as we navigate these uncharted waters. I also am praying for you every day, for your family, for Producer Mark, all the people of NYC, and all the people of this nation and the world. It pains me to no end to see these shots of empty streets in New York City, a city I fell in love with in no small part due to your guidance our first trip there 2 years ago. Wow, thank you so much, Dale. Through all of this, I'm encouraged we're Americans, and there is something inherent about being an American that makes us resilient and steadfast. And even in this divisive time, I know in the back of my mind we'll all come through this stronger and more determined than before. Thank you for what you do. Be encouraged. Shields high. Well, Dale, that's really helpful. And I'm glad, I've a lot of people have written me in the past if they're first-time visitors to New York. People on Team Buck will say, hey, can you give me a list of stuff to see and places to go eat? And I'm always happy to do it. I send them a note I do what I can. So I'm really happy to hear that someone really benefited from my New York City visiting advice. And yeah, we're going through a tough time here. I always remember, I don't know if the person's listening, but it was years ago, maybe now, it was 5 or 6 years ago, that I was on a first date, and I was with a young woman who was she was a former, I think she had formerly worked at a top investment bank and was now at some hotshot tech startup and had been a runway model. So yeah. And I was on the street with her, and it was during the day, actually. We had a lunch date for a first date, which I think can work out, but no, usually. And she was talking about how amazing she was the whole time. And I was like, oh God, I don't think this is going to work. And someone from Team Buck, a husband and wife who were visiting New York, just happened to walk past, and they made a big deal, and they gave me big hugs. Buck! And I got to say, that was great. I wish I could have the team drop in anytime like that when I need them. That was amazing. That was the one time I can remember in New York that really worked out in my favor like that. That was fun. So thank you, team. Unfortunately, that was the only date that went on with this particular person. But nonetheless, it made it more fun that I got to be like, yeah, that's right. The team is everywhere, even here in New York City. Steven. Hey, Buck, want a preview of how Biden would handle this pandemic? Take a look at how the Washington governor has handled this and dumb it down by 2. I don't disagree with what he was trying to do, but his snap unconstitutional execution has been terrible. We'll be working with the polls this AM regardless. Shields high. Oh, that's right. And Wisconsin is they're having people vote today. No one's even really. They got a primary going, right? Isn't that going on today, Mark?
Yes, I believe it is an in-person primary today. Yes.
Yeah, in-person primary. They want people to go out and vote. I'm going to tell you this. If I'm being told that I don't get to go get like fresh steak and milk and stuff that I need, or if only once a week, I don't think I'm going out to vote. Not for a primary. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna cast your vote for right now? It's gonna be Biden. All right, go. Democrats, go vote. Fine, do your thing. Will writes, the freight market has officially collapsed. I am seeing rates as low as 50 cents per mile for full loads. That doesn't even cover fuel and repairs. Truckers are starting to park their rigs, and good for them. Those that carry this freight will be out of business in 2 weeks. Will, I hadn't heard that yet, but if you're a trucker and you're telling me that's going on, that's very, very concerning. Look, the economic consequences of the shutdown aren't something you feel as much right away. It grows and gets worse with every passing day. Right? We need to remember that. Right? People say, oh, the shutdown is not that bad for the economy. Really? It's going to get worse every day. Every day it gets worse. More people can't pay their bills, more people out of work, more people out of jobs, more stress on the overall economy. So I wish I had something happier to share at this point on that, but we'll talk more about where the economic indicators are tomorrow. Also talk more about China. Team, please pass the buck. Tell people to check out this show if they haven't before. I'm sure you're in a lot of electronic communication with folks. You're not seeing them face-to-face as much. Send them a link to the show. That would really help us out, continue to help the show grow. I'll be back here tomorrow from the Freedom Hut in NYC. Shields high.